right. My name is Julie Waite. First and foremost, I am a wife and a mother of two wonderful, beautiful children, ages 6 and 8. Um, every journey is so unique, and it's a great thing for us to be able to talk about it today, even though it was probably hard for us to talk about it 10 years ago. It was probably hard for me to talk about it when I was going through it. I wish I had, but you know, can't turn back the clock now, but it's really empowering, I think, for women to come forward and tell their stories and let people know that everything is so unique, and hopefully it encourages people to stick with it. Yeah, the my journey was very long, so I would say roughly a 6-year journey, and part of the reason being is that I didn't meet my husband until pretty late in my 30s. So while I was working on my career, enjoying being a single person for many years, I always knew I wanted to get married and be a mother. That was always a goal of mine. But unfortunately, I didn't meet my husband until quite late. I was almost 38 years old. And so I knew at the time, too, we needed to discuss this quickly if this was going to work out between us, because I felt like I didn't have a whole lot of time to waste anymore. So we actually started working on our family pretty quickly. And when things didn't happen naturally, I knew at my advanced maternal age that I probably needed to seek assistance from a healthcare professional. So we went straight to a reproductive endocrinologist and went through 2 rounds of IUI as a starting point. We didn't find anything wrong with either one of us. I guess it was unexplained. So that was our first route, was to do the IUI, and 2 failed cycles of IUI. So we moved on to IVF, and to be honest, I was pretty naive. I didn't really understand the requirements, the commitment. I really kind of went in blind, but really with a lot of optimism and hope, because I felt I was a very healthy person. My husband is a very healthy person. We live a pretty good lifestyle. It would all work out. And after the first IVF cycle, that resulted in it resulted in a one embryo, and it was genetically tested, and it was abnormal. So there was nothing we could do with that first IVF cycle. So we went to the second one, and in that situation, we got 3 embryos that did not look very good, were not growing very well. So we decided to transfer those 3 back to me in a fresh cycle, hopes that something would work out with at least one of them, and nothing resulted. So it was a failed cycle for that one. And at that point, so now we've done, I would say, 4 attempts, and it was getting a little more depressing, I guess. I was losing a little bit of that hope, and we really sat down and talked this through to see what do we want to do. And I'm so thankful that we were on the same page. We just wanted to be parents, and we really didn't care. So we started the adoption process, and we thought, well, maybe we'll do that as well as pursue IVF, and whatever happens, happens. We just wanted to be parents really, really badly. And it didn't matter to us how it was going to happen. So the adoption process is not as physical, right? Because you're not getting poked and prodded, but it's really complicated, and it really does take a toll, because it requires just a long time commitment. There's so much paperwork. There's a lot of investigating and stuff, because you really don't know what you're getting into when you go through adoption as well. There's different routes. There's private. There's foster care. There's many different avenues. And honestly, we knew nobody that had gone through the process, so we didn't really understand it. So we started from scratch. And as we were doing this, we found an agency we wanted to work with. We were still doing IVF. I think I was, at this point, transferring to a different clinic just to see what else can happen if we try somewhere else. So we got through our adoption paperwork process, and it took about I would say 6 months, um, and getting ready for my next IVF cycle. And about 6 weeks later, after all of our paperwork was completed, our books were done, because you have to have a family book or a story book about you as a couple that will go out to mothers that are ready to give up their children. And that's how they pick the family or the couple that they want to choose their child to go to. So we're done with all of that. 6 weeks later, we get a phone call that tells us there was a baby that was born last night. He's in California, I'm in Texas. You guys need to get on a plane and come meet him and decide if you want him. So we have no background whatsoever. And so we're nervous, ecstatic, every possible emotion you could ever think of. And we buy a one-way ticket to California to meet this little baby that was born at this point 2 nights before. And so that is how we became parents, first and foremost, was by adoption. And it was such a crazy situation and circumstance where we were very, very unprepared. Not really underprepared to be parents, because we wanted to be parents. But usually you have a baby shower, you have a nursery set up or something. You have things at home. We had nothing. So we end up living in a hotel slash corporate apartment for 10 days with a newborn, trying to figure out and navigate the paperwork and the whole system. But I'm also starting my next IVF cycle. So I'm having to now find a local clinic that I can go to do some workup or some blood work. And so the clinic I was going to found a place for me to go to. And so we bring our baby home after 10 days, 10 days. And on that 11th day, I had to get on a plane to go to my clinic to do my workup. So I had to leave, and I'm a brand new mom. I'm so excited, but I'm like, okay, this is still possibly going to happen for me. So let's continue on this journey, and maybe this will work. Because I hate to say it, because it's the worst thing that you ever want to hear is don't stress, because then it'll happen. But I thought, well, maybe this this is going to be crazy if I have 2 babies within a year. So anyway, continuing on with our IVF journey. We do another cycle, and we do 2 more cycles, sorry. And in those next 2 cycles, I end up getting 3 normal embryos. So it's the best situation we've ever had. And so as I'm now taking care of a newborn, I'm also transferring an embryo one time. It fails. I transfer the second embryo. It fails. So at this point, we've gone through 6 cycles, IUI and IVF. And I'm ready to say, I think this is our plan. We have our son. He's amazing. This is everything we wanted. And then I think it was like a year and a half later, or 2 years later, we were like, I don't know, there's that one embryo still there. Maybe we just go for it and see what happens. And we did. I got pregnant. I have a beautiful daughter. So now I have a son and a daughter. And, I'm definitely older now. So I never thought it was going to happen. But I had my daughter at the age of 44. It was the easiest pregnancy. She was a dream. Everything worked out perfectly. I don't want to say the way it was supposed to be, because no one would ever choose this path by any means. But this is the end result. I have 2 beautiful children. Again, I would say I was pretty naive, because I don't think I did a lot of research, and I don't even know if I asked enough questions. So at the time of all of this happening, this is when I now start working for Ferring Pharmaceuticals, and I'm now getting exposed to so much more education, so much more knowledge about what goes into an IVF stimulation cycle. I really honestly didn't know. And I took the medications that I was asked, or I was told to do. I followed everything that I was supposed to do, but I don't know. I think I just thought everything was going to work out and it was just going to be fine. So I never really thought there would be so much heartache and really just distraught maybe, and through the process, like it never dawned on me that it would be this complicated and this grueling and tough. So I think when I talk about having a sense of humor, I had a lot of it in the beginning because you got to hang on to hope. You just have to, because you'll never get through this journey. And it is so not a straightforward path. So the other issue is you can't really just go to anybody and ask for advice, especially for a non-medical professional. If you're just talking to your friends, you can kind of understand their story, and you can take some of their lessons learned internally, but what works for one person does not work for another person. And I think that's a lesson that everyone really needs to understand. There's a lot of information out there. There are tons of people talking about their journey, which is great, because we want people to let everyone know how complicated the journey can be. But your journey is your journey, and it cannot replicate another person's. So you have to just keep the hope, for yourself. Stay optimistic as much as you can, and as hard as it may be. But there can be a light at the end of the tunnel, especially in my situation, when you can choose an alternative path to parenthood. It may not be for everybody, but it certainly worked for me and my husband, and we're grateful every day that we were able to look at different paths and choose different paths and be happy with it and be ecstatic with it. But it's a really tough journey, and there are so many dead ends. You feel like you just hit a roadblock constantly, and it's having a good support system around you, which for me was my husband. Like, we can get through this. Let's figure out another way. Let's find another way. Let's keep on this. Let's find other things that make us happy too in the meantime, which is hard to do because your world is completely focused on having a baby and getting pregnant and becoming parents. It's really hard to sometimes see other things around you. So we tried to travel. We did that. We had dogs. We took care of our dogs, and those were our babies at the time. But having each other was so important, and so crucial for us to keep faith, I guess, in what we were doing. Yeah, I mean, we went through so many different things that made us come together. I mean, definitely through all of the failed cycles. Now you're getting advice. You need to find a donor. You need to get a gestational carrier. I was told that. And researching that as much as I could was pretty difficult. And it was also very eye-opening to know how expensive those options can be. So we sat on that idea for a while, and I don't know, I think it's part of me that I started now really, really digging in and trying to find more information. I mean, because like I said, there's so many different paths, but I think the more equipped you are with knowledge, the better you are. So going back to my husband and I in situations that, we had to lean on each other, one was that. It was like having financial discussions, kind of understanding, how are we going to do this? How are we going to afford this? Do we have insurance that covers it? Those were times for us to be together. I also had a major setback when we were going through this with a medical issue that we had no idea. I was going through different surgeries for my reproductive organs. I had some issues with my uterus, so I had some surgeries that we had to go through, and I'm like, well, maybe with all of this, it will get resolved, and we can move on and finally get a positive result. But I also found out I had cancer. I had early stage breast cancer, and I only found that through my very first mammogram that my reproductive endocrinologist had me do as part of my workup. So thank goodness for her and for that process, for that clinic, that I was able to find it so early and get it taken care of. And so we had to deal with that in the middle of all of this. So that brought us together. But honestly, it just made me more motivated to get through those things, because those things I felt like I could handle. but I just wanted the baby and I wanted to be a mom so badly that we were able to get through it. I had a double mastectomy, but 1 month later, I was getting an egg retrieval. So my focus was on becoming a mom and not on the cancer. We beat the cancer. I'm good. So, I had choices I could make. And because I wanted to be a mom so badly and we were going through IVF, I'm not putting anything in my body right now other than fertility medications. There's so much information that needs to be louder today. One is understanding our biological clock a little bit better and understanding our menstrual cycle better. I think we as women really don't know what our bodies are capable of and what they do on a monthly basis. It's an absolute miracle to get pregnant. And our body is designed that way. It works in tandem with these hormones, and honestly, you just don't know that. You spend so many years trying not to get pregnant. You don't really understand what goes into this miracle. But I think more women need to be educated younger to understand. Just understanding that our bodies are all different too, and it can be as easy as a blood test to understand where you are in your fertility, in your own fertility. There are a lot of women that have early onset of menopause and they don't know it, and they won't know it until they're trying to get pregnant, just say at 35. But if they would have found out at 25, there was something that they probably could have done. So I think more and more discussions need to just keep the awareness, create awareness to women more about our bodies. That's one for sure. The other is not waiting too long to go see a specialist. I think that's another area that too many people don't understand. There are guidelines. If you're trying for a year under the age of 35, then go see a specialist, or 6 months over 35, go see a specialist. But there are people that wait years and years and years and years because they don't either think about going to see a specialist. They're really just giving it an old try every month or whatever it may be and hoping something will happen. But sometimes it's an easy fix. It's not always that everyone has to go to see a specialist and has to go through IVF. There are things, hormonal imbalances, there are things that a physician, a specialist can look at to help speed up the process, I think, a little bit more. So it's hurtful to see people that wait. I mean, I've heard it in my industry. People wait 10 years before they go to a reproductive endocrinologist, and all those years that they've been trying on their own. It's just sad. So I think more people need to understand going to see a specialist is not the end of the world, and it doesn't always mean IVF, but it also can help you build your family faster if that's really, your dream. Once you're in fertility, I wish I would have understood a little bit more about the commitment and not so much the medications. That wasn't a big deal for me, but I know it is for a lot of other folks. But me, I didn't understand the amount of appointments, the importance of the timing of your appointments. So here I am going through, I think, my first IUI cycle, and you do, I think, day 3 blood draw, and then you have to come back, or maybe when you start your medications, you have to come back like on the 5th day, and then maybe the 7th day, just to keep, monitoring the egg growth, or the follicle growth, I'm sorry, and also your blood levels. I remember going on a business trip, and I was supposed to be in an appointment the next day, and I call them. I'm like, oh, I can't make it tomorrow. Can I come like in 2 days? Not knowing how crucial these levels are that they need to monitor. So those are things that I wish I would have understood a little bit more. The medications can be very intimidating and very daunting, I guess, if you've never given yourself an injection, which I had not. But yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. There are videos you can watch. There are instruction manuals you can review. You can work with your nurse. You can go seek an online coach. You can seek an in-home coach, I think, to come give you your shot. So there are options out there for people that really are afraid of needles, but that shouldn't deter you from going to seek professional help from a physician. But there's a lot of mixing and poking and prodding and just a lot. There's a lot of appointments, and I think that's something that every person has to be fully aware of before they start into their fertility journey. I just, I want to encourage people. It can happen, and it doesn't always happen the way that you've dreamed up in your mind, and it will not always be an easy journey. But if I hate to say, if you stick through it, you can fulfill your dreams, because it doesn't always happen, and I can't promise or sugarcoat anything for anybody, because it is a tough, grueling process, journey for a lot of us. And but it's also the happiest thing too that we've ever done, because we now have this gorgeous family and everything I've always wanted. But I'm so glad we stuck through it, and I'm so glad we were open-minded to different paths of parenthood. I really, it's everything that we've wanted.